Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are coming back to the Bay for Game 5, all knotted up at 2. We are looking at player props here in this one. Plenty to choose from as we come back to the Bay. As I said, we'll have some of that for you. Also want you to like and subscribe to that page so you can also check out that game video we have up for you about Game 5. And we'll continue to have for you in maybe 3 more videos or at least 2 more, right? So we'll see if this one goes 7. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or a DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as the props we have for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest storyline for either team is whether Jayson Tatum's going to answer the bell. I think you can definitely bet his points at 27 or 28 right now. DraftKings giving you terrible odds on 27. FanDuel giving you good odds on 28. I think he'll be around 30 points for sure. I think he's going to come out aggressive unless that stinger in his shoulder is really something way worse than we've been told. Either way, I mean, he has matchup advantages. We saw what happened in Game 3 when the Celtics were able to work it around, get the right matchup for him, and he got easy looks. The biggest concern with this guy is that he goes to the basket like he's 6'2". And he's 7 feet tall, and he just doesn't understand. Like it's the whole searching for contact thing, I guess. That he's waiting for a foul instead of just going strong and then getting the foul. Yeah. And I'm sure that that's a point of emphasis behind closed doors. And Udoka said publicly he wants him to take more mid-range shots. I don't know if you say that publicly and then you go out and do that, or if he's trying to set something up. In any case, I think Tatum will have a huge usage rate in this game. He's been a little bit better on the road in these playoffs in terms of his pure scoring. He has more assists at home, but coming into this series in 9 road playoff games, averaging nearly 29 points per game. We know what he does after a loss, 32 points per game. 7. That's why the C's are 7-0, and he has really rough numbers in a win. I mean, after a win, 23 points per game. Just absurd splits there. So he does feel the urgency. And the last time we were hearing public calls for Jayson Tatum needs to step up, show that he is the superstar, the leader of this team, was going into Game 6 in Milwaukee. And he just let it rain. Just an unbelievable performance to carry the Celtics, who needed every single one of those shots. They had nothing else going. So for him to get 35 again, not 45, 35 is plus 380 at DK. For him to supplement that with 10 rebounds and 6 assists is plus 2,200. Those are intriguing specials to me. I mean, I think he's going 42 minutes plus in this game. I think he's going to contribute in a number of ways, and that the Celtics are going to be able to hunt the right matchups, hopefully to install some actual plays in crunch time this time around, instead of just standing around the perimeter and waiting for someone to hoist a 3. And if you do have some organization, then Tatum's going to have a much better fourth quarter than he's had so far in these finals.
Yeah, I concur with a lot of that. I would say also the thing about DraftKings actually is that his 3-point prop there is 3.5 for plus 120. And if you like the points, you got to like the over on that as well. And I mean, that's interesting that they're giving you bad odds on lower points, but then giving you great odds on him to get, more than 3.5 threes. So I'd like to add that as well. And why bet against the trend of what's going on with him and getting at least 30 points in a game after a loss and a big letdown for them last game. Usually comes back with a fierce performance. So it seems reasonable to continue to follow that trend. I'm going to follow another trend here, which is Marcus Smart playing really well. And he continues to kind of get trashed, in my opinion, even from C's media and fans in a way that's like, yo, Marcus shouldn't be trying to take over the game and yada, yada. And I agree, he's always going to be somewhat of a let it fly player, maybe in the moments you don't always want it. But I would also say he had a pretty good shot selection in this last game, and he gave the ball up in the right moments to Tatum at the end of the game and even to Jalen, and sort of played off the ball rather than and would get the ball, calm things down, set the offense up. Someone has been telling him that the C's need a point guard, and I think Marcus has been playing really well. Mostly, though, this is about his over 14.5 points, which he's done 3 times. He has 18, 18, and 24 points. You take away that awful game 2 where nobody on the Celtics showed up. They scored 88 points, and he didn't even get his 33 minutes that he's been averaging because the game was over before the fourth quarter started. So I think this is getting disrespectful for him, to be honest, in that 14.5 points has been the prop the whole series, and he's just, when the C's are at least average for themselves on offense, then Marcus Smart is a big part of that. And in his last 8 games versus the Dubs, he's averaging 17 points, 5 boards, and 6 assists. He's shooting 7.5 threes, making 3 of them, shooting 40%. So right there, you got, at the 2.5 threes for him on DK is plus 120. And he's hit 3 threes in 3 games, except for that game 2, which I'm pretty much whitewashing or just throwing away. Because I think the C's are going to have a good game this game, because it's just their classic letdown and then go into a win. And Tatum plays really, really well after those win or losses, but Marcus Smart and the rest of the team do too, as their offense, and clearly they're 7-0, not just because of Tatum. I think even in this series, like I said, take away game 2, 20 points a game for him, 43% from 3-point on 8 attempts a game. So this is, to me, disrespectful that you get 14.5 points as his prop, 2.5 threes as his prop as well, when he's averaging about 8 attempts already and making 3 of them when he's playing right, and so are the C's on offense.
Yeah, I guess it's so low because he's such an outlier producer, and he had 2 points in game 2 the last time we saw him in Golden State. So books are saying, we don't know if he's going to come out gunning in this game, but he absolutely is. Yeah, I mean, he's not shy. He is certainly willing to let fly. I think the criticism is that we're relying on Marcus Smart in crunch time when he is not shooting a good percentage at all in the final 5 minutes of close games. But they are going to lean on him consistently throughout the game to try to wear down Curry a little bit. If Curry's the guy guarding him, he's got to go at him. He's got a 25% usage rate in these last 2 games. So 14.5 points, not that bad. I think because he's an outlier, I think you can take 16 plus, and that's been a barometer for the Celtics. I think in these playoffs, there's something like 8-2 when Smart gets 16 plus, 16, and that's plus 350 at FanDuel, or him to hit 3 threes plus 370. So if you're gonna bet on the C's, you might want to get some extra juice because they're going to need the points from him. And I'm going to stick with the C's, but I'm going to go under here with Al Horford, who Draymond absolutely, when his post game 1 press conference was like, yeah, that's not going to happen again, was specifically thinking about Al Horford. And at some point in the broadcast in game 4, they said Al Horford with that quick release. And I'm like, what the hell are you saying? He has the slowest wind up and delivery on a 3-pointer ever. And he's not willing to shoot it if you're closing out hard on him really at all. I mean, the Warriors are going to have to give him these shots, and they've really just adjusted since game 1. That's why he's averaging 7 points per game with 7.3 rebounds in these last 3 here, and just not even getting attempts. He's 3 for 8 from 3, but that's 8 attempts over 3 games, and under 6 field goal attempts altogether. Only playing 28.5 minutes because his defensive rating is near 110, because he's been just really struggling in the pick and roll to guard Curry and deal with what the Warriors are bringing on that side of the ball. So Horford's points prop is still pretty low, but it's been here for a while at 9.5 points. I would take the under there, and don't mind combining with the points and rebounds. 17.5, just to give you a little more leeway one way or the other. As his value, I don't think it's going to be in filling it up and scoring double digits here for the Celtics. He's going to have to be just kind of a defensive connector and yes, get some rebounds, but I just don't think there's many opportunities for him to find his offense, which I said going into game 1 of the series that I didn't think he was a good fit in against the Warriors and the way they quickly adjust and rotate. And I looked really, really wrong after game 1, but I'm going back to it now after 3 dud games.
No, I still think you were right. I think game 1 was the anomaly, and it wasn't just an anomaly because he shot so well and made more threes than he ever has made. It's because they were wide open. All of Papa Al's threes were wide open, 6 for 10 on 10 open shots, because he has to be open, as you said, because it takes him, 3 seconds to wind that thing up and let it fly. So, I don't see another big game for him. You're right. He still contributes, but the 28 minutes that he got in game game 4 was also a reflection of Robert Williams being available for 31.5 minutes. And if you got him on the floor, as they did, especially, in key stretches in the third and fourth quarter, it's because you feel comfortable with Derek White out there, and you still have that one big, and Robert Williams, not a good or, average passer, just a non-factor in the passing game, the way, unlike Papa Al. But I still think Robert Williams is too crucial to what they do on defense right now, that he's going to be continuing to get those minutes. 3 days off will also help him as well. But I'm going to go finish with my last one here. It is Kevon Looney, spoiler. But before I get there, I've realized that we're going to go through this show and not even say Steph Curry's name in the player props. And I mean, look, 30.5 points for him. They finally adjusted to, he's averaging 34.5 in the series or whatever. But a historic performance. We talk about it in the game video, so that's where we'll leave it. But I just want to ask you how you feel about the threes for him, because it is I think it's still at 5.5 right now for him on 5.5 at plus 105 on DraftKings. Yeah. I would almost feel like you could just take that and not the points and get the plus money. I mean, how do you feel about that? If there's
what I would
Steph?
guess is Curry still does score about 30, but it's more like it was in that Memphis series where he's being chased off the line relentlessly, and he's showcasing that floater game and his ability to finish and setting other guys up. I just can't imagine that the Celtics stomach that again, let him have 14 attempts after what he just did. They have to get him off the line. They have to accept the 2 rather than the 3 at times.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a good call. And that was my initial inclination, is like, look, I know that it seems counterintuitive that you have to go over a screen when you're 30 feet from the basket, but you have to go over a screen when you're 30 feet from a basket. The 2 threes that he made where he got fouled, by the way, on the follow through from Tatum, and I think Brown landed on him or whatever. Those threes were ridiculous. There's no other player in history that can make them. But it's crunch time. It's nut cutting time for Steph Curry, and his legacy continues to be on the line every game, as he knows, because the minute he falters, the critics are coming right for him. You got to guard that 3 in the finals. So they're going to be doing that in this game, to your point. I would agree with that. And that's what scares me, is like, if the game plan is not just he can't do that to us again, so we're going to bombard him, then they know that, they're not doing their due diligence, I would say, as a staff and team. So that's got to be it. But at the same time, I think the C's are better and should win this game. So we'll talk about that as well in the game video. But the guy I am going to talk about real quick and finish it with is Kevon Looney, who has stickum on his hands, man. Every time he gets his hands on a ball, it's his rebound. 4 offensive boards once again in game 4. His 14.5 points and rebounds is what I like. I like it on FanDuel at minus 106, so I get close to even money there. You have to expect more Looney. That's really, this is a bit of a game theory here. He played 28.5 minutes, and that's in part because Draymond did not play his usual 33.5 minutes because he came out for the key stretch in the fourth quarter before coming back in and playing really well the rest of the game, but he still is afraid to shoot. So if he's not going to even look at the rim, then you're going to continue to get some good Kevon Looney minutes who can provide more for them in the pick and roll in terms of, being able to set a solid screen and then be a threat down low in the dunker spot. There's a clear correlation that I'm sure Steve Kerr and company are aware of, which is in the wins that they've had in this series. He's played 46 minutes. He's a plus 45 in those 46 minutes. He's 9 for 10 from the field with 18 boards. So you have to play him. His net rating is in the plus 40s or whatever. He's not a liability on defense. He's been able to stay in front of guys and avoid the switches as well, especially because if Robert Williams is able to play more minutes, then there's no way to find that mismatch on the switches because he's going to continue to be able to find Robert Williams to get back to him. So I think it's good to expect him to be on the floor for more minutes, which is good to expect him to continue to be the primary rebounder for the Dubs and get close to double-digit boards, which gets you over that 14.5 points in rebounds, because he'll definitely be getting 6 to 8 points in this game.
Yeah, it's funny you tie this into Steph Curry, and it's like, how do the Warriors survive the minutes without Looney on the floor? Because that's kind of a storyline in this series, that they're just overwhelmed by the size when they don't have him out there. When they have Draymond at the 5, because Draymond's not playing well, not rebounding well, and Looney's been incredible. He's kept them afloat. And it also ties into Curry because he's the best guy to set screens for Steph. He's the only one setting legal screens, to be honest, between Draymond and Wiggins and GP2 are usually the partners up top with Steph.
GB2.
And every time they're just throwing out a chicken wing or they're throwing out their leg. And I mean, Looney actually was the only one who got called for one in game 3. for sticking out his ass, and he does do that sometimes too. But in any case, I mean, the refs are not going to call this every single time, so he's going to continue to set screens, and Steph will get looks off that. And in some sense, it'll keep the Celtics scrambling if they're trying to get Steph off the line. And then Looney gets the easy buckets, and he's finishing at the highest rate he has in the paint. Definitely love this bet so much that I tried to put it in our show doc, and Josh had already beat me to it. So that is his final player prop pick.
Yeah, it's ours, but because we love it so much together, I'm happy to talk about it. And the last thing I would say is, if they do blitz Steph in this game, and that's their strategy, then Draymond becomes important. But you can have both of them on the floor, and we talk about this in the game video as well, but they actually have the best net rating of any two-man lineup on the Dubs, do Draymond Green and Kevon Looney. So for those saying you can't play them both at the same time because you can't have two guys who can't shoot, I say nay, and I think that you can because they've shown that together. If they do blitz Steph, you need Draymond in there to catch that lob off the doubles. They're going to blitz him up top. Then Draymond's going to be standing right at the top of the 3-point line, catch the little lob over, and now you've got 4-on-3 with Draymond running. You can still have Looney there in the dunker spot. You're in fine position at that point. So I think both those guys will be important in this game, and Kevon Looney will continue to get his minutes over 30, and that'll help him get his stats in this one.
Warriors open at -3.5. They're now -4. Getting a little bit of steam here after Steph's ridiculous performance, and the total is at 212. And the Celtics, I mean, everyone knows the storyline of whether they turned it over 16 plus times or whatever it is, and how much of an impact that has on the series. And yes, it does. And yes, it's going to be even more of a factor on the road, where they struggled in that second game and turned it over a total of 30 times in the first two games of this finals. But I think the bigger issue for me, if betting on the Celtics, is how bad they've been in close games. And that goes back since they became this juggernaut in mid-January, when they just didn't play any close games. I think they had like 15 clutch minutes the entire rest of the regular season because they were just crushing teams. And in these playoffs, it's come home to roost. I mean, they have pulled out 7 out of 12 games in clutch situations, but they have a -14 offensive rating. I mean, net rating, and they have the 4th worst offensive rating of any team, including 3 teams that were knocked out in the first round. So 89 is their offensive rating. And the Warriors' offensive rating in the half court, something like 85 for the series. So right away, that jumps out to me to take another under, which we are on last game. I just think one with the first and second best defense out there, as the series wears on and there are more adjustments made and there's more physical play that the refs continue to kind of let go, you're allowed to just like put a chicken wing on your man all the way to the court, all the way to the hoop, and it doesn't get called. Nothing's getting called. Steph was so exasperated. And I think that is probably the Celtics' path to success, is chasing Curry off the 3-point line and then capitalizing on that, because it's not being called either way. And you can with Time Lord back there, as who's expected to play, it's going to be a lot tougher for Steph to make contested twos, to get that floater game going. Easier said than done, and easier done in one half than in throughout the entire game. But so heroic performance from Steph absolutely required, because the rest of the Warriors, when he shot 7 for 14 from 3, they were 8 for 29 in game 4. They're just simply not going to get it done. Clay, even with 25 points, still a -3 in that game, still not the same defensive presence that he has been in past. And the Celtics did unlock some things in terms of going at Poole and Curry in game 3 and keeping their offense moving, and they were able to perform in the clutch, or at least hold off the Warriors after they made it a close game in game 3. So it's not to say that they're just going to completely fold if they get into another close game here, but they're going to need contributions up and down the roster. They're going to need to prove that they are the better team overall, and that means Marcus Smart making shots. That means Jaylen Brown playing a consistent 4 quarters, and of course means Tatum capitalizing on his matchups. There's a lot of talk about how Nemanja Bjelica was as able to hold Tatum 0 for 4 into 2 turnovers, and I hope he gets that matchup again, because that was a tiny sample size. I don't think Bjelica's going to hold up guarding Tatum.
Do you see how happy you made me talking about Bjelica?
Yeah, let's just get him out there first. Important player in the finals. But the point is, yeah, Tatum, unless he's really hurt, there shouldn't be anything stopping him from getting 30 against this team. Andrew Wiggins has done a pretty good job, but Luka cracked him for sure down in the last 2 games of that series. He's not an individual stopper. And at times the Warriors have no rim protection. We expect more Kevon Looney than his 28 minutes in game 4, but he's still not a leaper. He's still not somebody who's going to stop you from getting all the way to the rim. And it's interesting that Udoka said in the press conference that Tatum maybe needs to take a few more mid-range shots and pull up and not go all the way to the rim. And I just don't know why you'd say that publicly if you want him to do that. So I think we will actually see an aggressive Tatum. Obviously, we're going to see an aggressive Jaylen Brown. And Marcus Smart, with his irrational confidence, is going to be very aggressive and trying to get Curry in foul trouble, trying to wear him down. And that's the Celtics' path to victory. It's on those 3 guys and the health of Rob Williams. Whether I see it happening or not, I don't feel like I'm qualified at this point. My emotions are too invested. I would love to see them win, but I think the Warriors honestly probably win a game in the single digits, 10 points or less, because the Celtics are just too young and not ready to perform with the stakes this high.
Yeah, well, firstly, I wanted to say how, I think Udoka's comments about wanting more mid-range shots from Tatum, it's like, that would be like if Belichick was like, we're going to run a few more designed runs for Tom Brady. And it's like, we know you're not going to do that. Why are you even saying that? Like, we know that the game plan is you don't want him taking more mid-range shots. That makes no sense. I like his 3-pointer prop, actually. I think Tatum's going to continue to shoot that amount of threes, and I think you can expect him to get more than 4, which is a good prop that you can get on DK there at plus money. Talk about in the props video as well. But I think that's indicative of how he's going to continue to play. I do think you expect the trend to continue, I guess, right? Like it's back and forth. The thing is the trend of Tatum now having another nice game and the C's winning. I think also correlates, especially coming back here in game 5 to the Bay, where the Dubs just play so much better on offense. That's the only reason I'm scared of an under. I fully subscribe to the religion that in the playoffs, especially in the finals at this point, that you've got to hit unders, because even if you're like on target to hit an over going into the 4th quarter, you just got to expect less than 50 points scored in that 4th quarter, which is not the norm for an NBA basketball game. You set a line for like bad offenses at like 50 to 52 points in a quarter, and it's just not the regular season. This is a different ball game, and 2 defenses that are going to be going crazy. 2 teams that at least one team seems to sort of tense up at least one quarter in a game, and that's when they lose the game, to be honest. And that was the 3rd quarter for the C's. Even though it was close in the 4th, it wasn't close enough. And clutch time, as we talked about, and you mentioned how bad the C's have been, really, and how even though they've won 7 of 12 games where they played in clutch time, some of those games were against teams that just weren't of the same caliber of them in the first 3 rounds of the playoffs, especially the Heat. And in game 4, it was really indicative. Once again, the Celtics didn't score a point in clutch time. As we sort of bounced in and out of clutch time there was 5-point lead, 7-point lead, whatever. 15-0 in clutch time in game 4. It's that 15 points as well that just that crushes them. You mentioned that the Dubs offensive rating in the half court is at 84 for the series, which is not good. But to be very clear for those who don't understand, 84 points per 100 possessions is not good. 125 in transition. So when the Dubs are in transition, they're scoring because they're losing shooters, and even when they pop out late, sort of off balance, guys are getting to the rim for the Dubs. So that's also really indicative of the fact that points off turnovers. It is about that. It is about the. It's not just the Celtics getting those turnovers. It's what the Dubs do with it. As we know, pretty much the best team when it comes to scoring in transition off of turnovers and live turnovers, which means you're just going the other way, probably with an outnumbered, or you are outnumbering them on offense on the fast break. 52 points points off turnovers in 2 games in their wins, and 22 points in the 2 losses that they had combined. Right. So that tells you a huge story right there. You can't throw up all over yourselves, as you like to say about the Celtics. I believe in them here more than you do. Let me go ahead and put you on my back and tell you that I think you should feel good about them in this game. They are the better team. And we said in game 4 ahead of time, they were going to need Steph to go bananas because they were there's nothing on offense for them right now. Now, Clay is what he is, and that's fine. 18 to 22 points for Clay is going to be what you're going to get. Maybe we get a random game 6 Clay game or something like that in the last 3. I'm not going to not predict that, but I would say you're best to just guess him in that 18 to 22 range, which his point prop is at 19.5, which makes perfect sense. I think that's, as our friend Mo would say, fair. So I don't know if I really want to hit that, but I do think that you know now what you expect from Clay, which means 18 to 22, and now if you're getting 18 from Wiggins, which God bless Wiggins is playing amazing, second best Warrior in this series. He and Looney are really close, but he's playing a lot more minutes and being asked to do a lot more. So Wiggins is easily their second best player in this series. You're going to continue to get 18, maybe 20 points from him. His ceiling and scoring in this series is going to continue to be maybe 22 points at the most. But right then you're talking about, well, who's that other guy? And Poole's not going to get enough minutes. You cannot trust him. I did feel good about his props in the last game, which is what I told everyone to hit, and it hit because he was going to get 20 to 25 minutes. I knew that Kerr had to find offense somewhere, and that's what we're now going to continue to see. I think he coached really, really well in that last game. Everyone talks about him taking out Draymond at the end there, which was crucial. He also started to go with an offense-defense sort of transition lineup, subbing in and out, basically in the middle of the third quarter, was because he knows he can't play Jordan Poole for long stretches of time. The young man just gets it in his head that he is Steph Curry, and he's not yet, so he cannot be doing those things, which all leads you to go like, it's going to be slow. So I'm scared of the over because I do think that, once again, hitting an under, because I think you could get another, a first half that gets maybe 115 points or so. But either way, once I get to the middle-ish end of the third quarter, where there's been a good, we've been seeing a barrage of points every third quarter, mostly from the Warriors. But either way, we've had some high scoring third quarters. Then I'm going to hit my live under, which I continue to talk about. I'm going to hit my live unders. I might hit it in the first quarter, in the second quarter, if we get those. Like I said, if we're looking at a first half that has around 115 points and you see a total get up to about 220, 225, man, I'm going to love hitting that under. And then once we get into the third quarter, if we have another barrage like we did in this last third quarter, then I'm going to feel really good about hitting that under live again, because that fourth quarter is going to continue to see 45, 46 point fourth quarters, even less, 43 point fourth quarters that you can feel good about hitting an under before you get there. So that's what I feel best about. But I think our game theory is pretty right on. And if everything goes according to, like, not completely out of the norm, like Steph Curry having the most heroic game that we've seen from him in the finals, then the Celtics should win this game. And I feel pretty good about them on the money line.
No, I mean, you've emboldened me a little bit, at least. The thing I feel most confident about is the Celtics not losing by double digits. I don't think you can blow this team out. I know in game 2 that did happen. The third quarter got really out of hand. But I don't think that they're going to go down with a whimper like that. I think even if they're trailing big, they're going to come back, make it a game, or they're going to be ahead and they're going to kind of give it away at some point. But that's why I think a teaser works. It's just, I don't know which direction you want to tease it in. It's still a very competitive total in either direction. One bet that I do like, and it has nothing to do with who wins the game, is just Steph Curry to be the leading scorer at minus 125. And
give me that.
I mean, Tatum is next at plus 230. He's still dealing with a shoulder injury. The Celtics are so much more balanced, and they're not necessarily at their best when he's getting 30. They're at their best when he's getting 7+ assists, and they're playing as a team, and everybody's getting good looks. So I think Steph, who has to do absolutely everything for this team offensively, is almost a lock to do that, to get 30+ and to lead this game in scoring. And he's minus 160 to be Finals MVP right now at FanDuel. That seems like a lock to me too. I think, even if the Celtics win this series, if I had a vote, I would vote for Steph Curry at this point. He's out there LeBroning. I told you, like, this is like 2015 LeBron, where he's playing the better team, but he is better, more experienced, and more poised than that better team, which may or may not be ready yet. In 2015, the Warriors had enough to take down LeBron. But I don't know about the Celtics team in terms of their. I mean, they've answered the bell at every point thus far. 7-0 following a loss. I want to believe that trend will continue. It's going to be a tough environment, but if you do believe, then you can go ahead and hit the Celtics in 6 at plus 300 still getting great odds for them to win that one, and then maybe actually follow up a good performance with another win. Although you never know with this team. And one more thing I like is, well, Tatum, I don't necessarily expect to outscore Steph. Right now, for him to average 25 in the series, about minus 102. And he's averaging 22.3, and that includes the 12-point game in game one. I don't think he's going to go below 20 at any point. I think he's going to get over his prop, which we talked about in the props video, at least 28 points in this one, and probably throughout. So I think he will come to play, and he will start to try to put the C's on his back in that sense.
Yeah, no, that all seems fair, and it is just a case of, are the Celtics going to throw up all over themselves or not? So that's why I feel better betting on them, is just because the Warriors need more to happen. The Celtics just need to do their thing. They really control. I would say it's in their hands, in the sense that they're, like I continue to say, they're the better team, and it's really going to come down to how they continue to play in the fourth quarter, which they've got a pretty good rating in this fourth quarter, in the finals, in the fourth quarters that they've played. I mean, it's because in 2 games that they won, they played really well in the fourth. In the 2 games they didn't, they did not. Really not. So but the fact that they're even, it means that they are sort of beating the Warriors in the fourth quarter by the same amount that the Dubs are beating them back in these wins. So it really just comes down to the same thing. And we go, you just got to put your money on what you think will continue to happen in this specific game. And the trends would say the Celtics will prevail and utilize their strength that they have over the Warriors in this one to pull this one out. But there's still so much that you can bet on here to find some value, as we're having a ton of fun. Thank God this is the NBA Finals, man, especially after some of those conference finals. This is a beautiful series that hopefully will go 7, and we'll continue to be there with you through it all. So do like and subscribe to that page, and check out that props video and each of these finals videos and props videos that will bring you the rest of the way. So until we see you next, happy betting.